Hello, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live event. Um, let's just be honest. Job searching right now feels like such a maze. Fake postings, frozen roles, scam recruiters. Too many people are just wasting time on jobs that were never real to begin with. And today we're going to cut through the noise, showing you exactly what's legitimate. Um, and what's legitimate and what's not. Um, you know, before we dive in, I would love for those of you who have joined us, tell us in the chat, have you ever applied to a job and immediately thought, is this even real? So if you can just jump into the chat and just say yes or no, I'd love to understand what you guys are experiencing. And as we wait for that, again, thank you for joining us for this LinkedIn Live webinar. And really what we're going to talk about is how to spot and outsmart job scams, frauds, and fakes in today's job market. So many of these postings and the outreach, it looks legitimate at first glance, but that's really why people are getting fooled, but some are legitimate. And some are wasting your time. So we're going to open the floor to questions, which we will answer at the end. So absolutely utilize the chat to ask questions. If they make sense at the time, we'll answer them. Otherwise, we will leave them to the end. So definitely stick around, and also stick around because we've got a free checklist we're going to give that's going to summarize all the points that we've made. And before we get started, Eddie, I've got to introduce you. So thank you for sitting there. I'm joined today by Eddie Stewart. He spent more than 20 years inside corporate recruiting departments, massive companies, startups, and everything in between. Eddie's the person companies call when their hiring process is broken and they need someone to diagnose bottlenecks, fix systems, and overhaul how they attract talent. But here's why his insight matters today. The way companies hire is changing, and it's changing really, really fast. Eddie studies these shifts every day, and he helps both sides, companies and job seekers, navigate this new landscape. And he knows exactly what happens behind the scenes. So thank you for joining me today, Eddie.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's an interesting and timely topic, so I'm looking forward to having the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we really want to talk about are the non-criminal job posts, right? Because they seem like they waste our time, but there are some legitimate ones out there. So let's jump into that. Um, what are these non-criminal
Yeah.
criminal
So
fake jobs like?
right, it's not there's not any ill intent mostly, but sometimes bad jobs stack up, and you'll see the list here. One of the biggest culprit are these aggregator sites. So LinkedIn is an aggregator site, Indeed, and what that means is basically they go out to corporate career sites and everywhere else and scrape the jobs so that you can go just to one place and look for jobs. They're really good at scraping and bringing the jobs in. They're not always so good about getting rid of jobs if they've been filled or taken down for some reason. So there's a lot of jobs on the sites that you go to look for work that have jobs that just aren't real.
Yeah. Eddie, Lisa just mentioned that we're getting a little bit of a feedback from your microphone. Can you make sure you've got the right driver selected?
Yeah.
But I think this idea that there's these aggregator sites and they're just going through and they're picking up all of these job postings and they're aggregating, they're bringing it all together. But what's happening is because they're doing that, some of these positions are getting filled, but they're still showing up. And that's one of those moments where it's legitimate, but it's still not real. It's
Yeah.
not real because it's old.
Let me know if.
Oh, you sound so much better.
Oh, perfect. It was the wrong driver. Excellent. So the other thing that happens a lot is this internal external thing that companies do. So I have a position. I have two people in my company that are being considered for it, but I'll post it externally also. And so, and I worked for a company a large company that filled almost 50% of their jobs with internal candidates. So half of all the jobs that you would see as an external person were not real. They were filled by internal people.
Isn't there also some type of a regulation that says that you have to post these jobs?
It's more company policy.
Okay.
So I've worked for companies that they say, hey, we're going to post it internally for a week before we post it externally, or like they have rules like that. There's not any kind of a, like a universal
law.
No. So you may see jobs that you just don't hear anything back from because either we are being polite by posting it externally, or we think we want to see external candidates, but we never get around to it because we hired the internal person.
Yeah.
And the evergreen requisitions are a similar thing. There's jobs that are open a lot or high volume, like think about a call center where you might have turnover and you're hiring people all the time. We'll just post this evergreen rec. It's always open, and just check in there when we're ready to hire, when we're ready to interview. So those things are floating around where there might not be any recruiter really looking at for periods of time. And again, as the job seeker, you apply, you don't hear anything.
Yeah. And I think in those situations, they know they're going to need to hire someone. So let's collect as many resumes as we can. So when that job does open, which it will undoubtedly open, we have a bunch of people that we can still always keep going back to.
Yeah. And right? It works. I mean, when the companies use those right, it works. It's just if they have, there's sometimes these evergreen recs are floating around and we're not looking for the job right now. Like one good example is at the university hiring level, where maybe you have an internship or, you're going to hire 30 finance interns. So you just have one posting and people you're kind of interviewing, but at some point you stop looking at it. Do you take recruiters don't always remember to take these postings down.
Yeah.
So that can be a concern. The last one here is interesting. I think you and I have talked about it before, but I've never actually seen this myself, but I've talked to people who mention it. And that is that companies, from a branding perspective, like they don't want the world to know that they're not hiring, or they don't want the world to know that like things aren't going very well here. So they post all these jobs looking like there's a lot of great activity when there really isn't.
Yeah.
And if this is happening, I want to come across the company because that's just deceptive. Feels a little yucky,
It definitely does. I don't know if we could ever get a strong number on how many companies are doing this, but word of mouth says that this is something that is taking place, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some red flags. And I think one of the questions I'd love to ask to those who are watching today, what are you seeing? What kind of red flags are popping up in your eyes, or what kind of issues are you seeing that we want to talk a little bit more about? So please, in the comments, go right ahead and start messaging us. We're watching the comments, but let's talk about some of these, like the communication things that we should be paying attention to, because we see these things land in our inbox. Maybe we're looking at these postings. Like, what should we be keeping our eye on, Eddie?
Yeah. Well, funny that leading up to today, we had a lot of source material, trading back and forth. Here's a text, here's an email. It's, email communications, like if there's not good grammar, it's a telltale sign, right?
The problem with that, though, Eddie, is at one time that was such a great telltale sign, right? But now that they have AI and they have ChatGPT and Claude, I almost believe that we're going to see those typos going away.
Yeah.
So it might be even harder.
Yeah. Well, but there's so many other things that you can look for in addition to that. You know, like for example, the WhatsApp. Like WhatsApp is used when you need or want an encrypted, secure communication that people can't follow, right? So why would a legitimate corporate recruiter want to use WhatsApp? Because they have all the tools in their applicant tracking system and things like that. The only way that people would want to use this is if they're maybe a super small company and they don't have tools. But that,
even so, it's just so hinky.
well, I know. I just got one. But I think I showed you the other day. It was like 2 days ago. Text message, and they wouldn't want to communicate other than WhatsApp. And it's, you know, if you are interested in this, in fact, pull up the slide that shows this is perfect. This is something that was sent to me a couple weeks ago. And there's just things that stand out that they want to communicate through a text, which you see here. When I recruited, would want to do text all the time because for the company I work for, I got 93% reply rate within 7 minutes. So as a recruiter, you want that, but never ever did we do that on the very first contact. It was some other communication. Are you interested? And then I'm going to communicate with you through text the rest of the way. This job is an hour a day. I figured it out, $300 an hour. It's just too good to be true. And these are popping up all the time. There's, I think there's another slide. I actually, for this LinkedIn Live, go one more. So I actually, for this LinkedIn Live session, I replied back to the person and said, she's Nora from Real Short. Can I provide you more details? Sure. And I just kept saying, give me a job description. I just want a job description. And you see at the end here on the bottom right, still waiting to review that job description. And that day, over the next 3 hours, I got 6 or so more texts from her. You know, she knows nothing about me, yet I'm a perfect fit for this job. And, you know, anytime you get 6 texts and you haven't shared your resume yet, something seems a little fuzzy, right?
Now, we had a whole bunch of people comment just recently. So let's take a quick look. Someone had mentioned asking too many personal questions. That's a huge red flag.
We got the ATS ready comment here. Your resume isn't ATS ready. We'll talk about that.
We're going to dive into that one. Oh my goodness gracious. That's a thorn in my side. Asking, candidates to click on strange links. That's another huge giveaway.
Yeah. And Mitch made the comment about using Gmail. So that's another thing. Like, legitimate companies use company email addresses. Like, I don't want to ever mix up my personal and corporate email together, right? We just don't want to do it. Recruiters are busy, and when they're done recruiting, they want to separate from work. So you can follow up and ask, like, why are you using a Gmail address? Because one thing you don't want to do is be very cynical and miss out on an opportunity. But in a nice way, you can say, "What tell me what's the advantage of using WhatsApp to communicate," and see if they say anything.
I really struggle to think that there's any any legitimate recruiters. Maybe in Europe. I think the domain spoofing is a good one. But I actually think it's spoofing a lot of things, because it's not just like, oh, the URL is slightly different. It could be you're looking at a person, you're looking at a recruiter email, and the name isn't the same.
Yeah.
Or you click to visit their LinkedIn profile, and it looks like the recruiter is on maternity leave. So why is she recruiting when she's not even active? Maybe
Yeah.
she said that on her profile. Like, there's these things that just make you go, that's just not right.
And like you said, AI is going to make it harder and harder. Things are going to get cleaned up. A telltale sign for me is, someone says they're from a big name company. Like, I think the one I shared, they said they're from Amazon. There was no Amazon logo. There's no, it just didn't look like from Amazon. It's just someone that said. So that happens a lot too, is they'll say they're from a company, and then you look closely at their email address and it's something not from the company.
Let's talk about some other red flags, especially when it's more of like the job offer piece, where what are some of those red flags? So these unsolicited offers that are too good to be true. We sort of talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, those texts that we've shared on screen are kind of alluding to that, right? Like, here's a perfect job. You're a great fit. And they don't really know anything about me, right? So that's a little concerning. But when you get to the offer phase way too fast, it's, you should immediately think what's going on, because the reason why scammers want to get to the offer stage super, super fast is because that's when you're willing to share sensitive information, right? So
Yeah.
would you pass along your bank routing details so that we can send your first check, right? Or we need, for your application, we need your social security number, or stuff like that. It's the only way that they can get that is to get to the offer phase as fast as possible. There's I've heard a lot of different things where you get the offer, everything sounds legit. They are sending you onboarding stuff. One even sent money, right? Like pass the details, and then they sent, like, I don't know, $200 to cover for something, but canceled it before it would pay out. So it looked like everything was on the up and up, but all of a sudden, once they get your details, they disappear.
I also heard of, this is a little bit different, but a fellow speaker was in negotiations to do a presentation at an event. They had gotten his bank information, and they deposited $20,000 into his bank. And he's like, we never really signed off. I suddenly have this large sum of money in my bank account. And he was he said, thank God he didn't touch it, because they pulled it back out. But what if he had utilized that money?
Right.
So there is some real crazy things that could happen, especially if you do give that information out.
Yeah. And Scott mentions in the comments, always look up someone on LinkedIn. That's like number one. In general, do research. If there's a company name mentioned, like on one of the examples, the company was named Real Short. So I looked up Real Short scams. I typed in, I think I used AI, and I also used Google. And it turns out they're a legit company. They just have uncomfortable, aggressive practices they'll sign people up for subscriptions that they didn't ask for, things like that. So, but you can do research, and now it's simple to type in, company name, the word scam, and see what pops up.
Let's so just, we've already talked a little bit about this, but I think this is good. How to protect yourself, research thoroughly. Jeff talks about that. A few people else have talked about this. We've got this one here too. Sometimes they'll even use a legitimate person too, and they're just they have a different email address that they're talking through. So even that isn't always. Never pay money, never share sensitive info. Actually, since we're talking about never pay money, why don't we talk a little bit about the ATS scam? Because that's something we see a lot. And what that is someone reaches out to you. Let me grab that one. It's right here. I can open and read your resume personally without any issues, but I found that it is not optimized for ATS. This means our system can't, access it. And I've tried manually converting it to Word. In order for us to input it into our system accurately, we need you to, send it for a free review, which really isn't free because they do then say there's something wrong with it. Anything would have something wrong with it. And then you need to pay something like $300 to $500 or maybe even just $30, but to fake scan it, fake convert it. So, tell us about this. Why is this so, what does that mean? Compatible with ATS. We hear this all the time.
Yeah. So they're kind of like feeding on something that was an issue years ago. And you've seen a lot of resumes, Donna, but years ago, the parsing piece or other kind of activity that the ATS would do to find information on the resume didn't always work right. So it wasn't compatible. And, even today, I suggest, don't send a resume in with, flowers on it and, a picture here, because it's distracting. It could be distracting for some, scanning activity. But we know that with technology, this has improved so much that I don't think that there is such a thing as a non-scannable resume or an ATS, a non-friendly ATS resume. I don't think that's a thing.
If you can go and take a picture of your refrigerator and ask ChatGPT to give you recipes, there is no issue with ATS being able to figure out what's the content, especially if it's text-based. Right.
And this is a really good example too, because they recommend they're sending you to a specific site, which I visited, and it's just selling resume service. That's all it is. It's like there's nothing that you can do on this site other than click a button that says, sign me up.
Yeah.
And it's not legit.
Let's in fact, anyone watching, if you do have any questions about even the legitimate job search process, if you have questions about ATS and how ATS works, I know we often hear, I need to trick ATS. I need to put hidden fields in the resume, or there's nothing I can do to break through. No one is seeing my, I'm submitting, but I'm not getting any responses. So these are things that we hear all the time. And I'd love, for you to talk a little bit about that. But I think in terms of how to protect yourself, I think we've got all of that taken care of.
Yeah. And Dion brings up a good point of it reinforces the importance of going straight to the company's career site to apply, which is a good idea. But where there gets to be problems is if you're dealing with a third-party recruiting company, right? So that's where, if you understand how third-party recruiters work, you can kind of figure out what's a scam or not. And if I'm a headhunter, I get paid when someone accepts the job, right, and goes to work for my client company. I want to talk to as many people as possible, especially if it's a contingency search, which basically means I might be competing with multiple other recruiting firms because we don't get paid until the person gets hired. If my person doesn't get hired, then I'm doing this work and not getting paid. So these recruiters are going to be high volume, they're going to work fast, and they're not going to do anything to waste their time. So when I see these notes that say, you look like you're a really good fit with no job description, a headhunter wouldn't do that. They want to give you a job description, be specific, and find out as fast as possible if you're a fit or not. And so all these fuzzy things, if you look in the LinkedIn profile, I saw one of the comments was, the person had 3 followers on LinkedIn. Headhunters have lots of followers. They're connecting, right? They're connecting with a lot of people. And if you're a great talent in my specialty, then I want to remember you because I might get another job down the road. So these things are all definitely go to the career site to apply for jobs if you know the company name. And if not, just look for these little red flags, right? Recruiters with no context, WhatsApp and Gmail and all that kind of stuff. I don't, it's not likely that that's legit if you see lots of these little things popping up.
I think let's actually go back to the job search process where, let's say it's one of those situations where we're not figuring other ways. We're not really utilizing our network too heavily, but we're looking at a job site and we see a posting and it looks great. And we decide that we're going to, this looks legitimate. It's clearly real. It's LinkedIn. It's associated with a company. We feel good about it. And we apply. We submit our information. I think one thing that a lot of people think about, or they believe, is they hit apply and they go off on their merry way. I did my job. I hit apply. Job done. Success. I wonder when I'll hear from them. What time is it? When will they get back to me? This is something that it really, that's when the starting gun goes off.
Yeah. It's so just the environment that we're working in 2025, it's like a perfect storm type thing, right? So you have AI coming onto the scene. You have candidates that can hit a button and apply for, 100 jobs at a time or more. And what people don't understand is that companies haven't fully adopted AI or other technology tools to assess resumes. So, my guess is at least, last summer, about a third of decent sized companies had some kind of technology to screen resumes, which means 2/3 have people doing it. And we've discussed before how a corporate recruiter does this. I'm never going to send a hiring manager 50 resumes. I'm going to send them 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So how many resumes do I have to look through to get 3 to 5? 30, 40, and 100 or 800 people apply, right? And I've looked at 30 resumes. So there's lots of reasons why you apply for a job and don't hear from anyone. And that's what, and you just gave the perfect, advice, Donna, is that when you apply, that's the start of the process. It's not the end. Now it's how can I find someone to talk to at that company? How can I use my LinkedIn network to make more contacts, more connections? My advice to job seekers is search for people, not for jobs. So
Love that.
Find companies that you want to work for, and then find people in those companies that will talk to you and learn more about the company, because there's lots of jobs that aren't posted. And today, the best way to find work is to have a physical conversation with someone and let them refer you.
Yeah. It's funny, on this very, the event for this post, I had posted, this is what we're doing. And someone got back to me, Eddie, and said, you shouldn't be doing this, Donna. You ghosted me when I applied for a freelance position last year. And I was really like, I couldn't believe that someone would publicly, state this, but two, I can't believe I did that. And so I went through to see, wait, did I really ghost this person? And you know what? I did talk to them. I did intend to get back to them, and I forgot. But here's the thing, that person never followed up.
Yeah.
They never once followed up. If they were that interested, why didn't they reach out and email me or call me? Because honestly, I really like them. I wanted to bring them on. I just got overwhelmed with everything else that was going on at the
Yeah.
time. And so I say to people, think about this. Please pardon my persistence. Please pardon my persistence, but I'm really interested in this job. And follow up a few times. Don't forget that the other person sitting on the other side of the desk isn't sitting there waiting for you. They're out there trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So that's the other piece of this is don't be shy. If you like something, keep reaching out.
That's hard when you're, looking for work. You need to get employed. You send in an application, and like 4 hours later, why haven't they got back with you? But if you think about the other side, I've got, meetings to attend. I'm getting email that's coming in. You have all this stuff on your plate, so it never happens as fast as you want from a job seeker standpoint. But I did talk to someone who said, he made up something like the half rule. Like, if I don't hear from them in 2 weeks, I reach out, and then wait a week. And if I don't hear from them, then I wait 4 days, and then I don't hear from them 2 days, and then 1 day. This person went all the way down to twice a day. And I said, twice a day? Like, how often of following up is too much? And he looked me dead in the eye and said, when they file a restraining order.
He was in
I don't have the
sales,
personality. I couldn't follow up with someone twice a day, but I've been on the other side. I have gotten calls and emails and calls and emails, and I thought, you know what? I just need to get back to this person so that they'll stop with the calls and emails. So I think most people are nice and they don't want to bug people, but the way that you stated is perfect. With tact.
Yeah.
Get back to me.
Yeah, please pardon my persistence. I'm truly interested, and I'd like a chance to talk to you, or I'd like to discuss this, whatever it might be. But we definitely want to do this. Let's definitely talk about the reporting any frauds, and then I think we can open the floor to questions. We've got a number of questions here. So actually, and I don't know if I can share this screen or not, but reportfraud.ftc.gov. So
Yeah.
you can, believe it or not, you can actually report these silly scams and schemes and frauds that we're seeing.
This is like, I want to put an end to this stuff, and whatever I can do. I think people that are looking for work, some of them are in tough situations. You have bills to pay, you have, mouths to feed. And for anyone to prey on this group just really makes me mad. So I didn't realize until a few weeks ago that the FTC does have a site. You can see it on the screen now, reportfraud.ftc.gov. If you see this stuff, this fraudulent stuff, report it, and let's get as much reporting as possible so that we can start making this more visible and hopefully shutting this stuff down.
So I want to give everyone this link. This is a link to a checklist that covers all of the items that we discussed today. linkedin-makeover.com/gift. You'll receive the checklist in your email. And as you're clicking and writing that down, I'd love to go back to some of these questions. Let's see. There was one right here that I really liked. Hold on, just bear with me. I've got to find it. It's here somewhere.
There's one I can bring. I see Debbie's question. Do you recommend the company recruiters on this call to have a scam alert on their career page explaining that the company would not be asking for bank info and any other personal information? I think that is a really great idea. Because I think it's going to be more prevalent, especially with AI making things more polished. And I've seen that in some emails that I've gotten from other companies that said, we will never ask for this advice or this information.
Yeah.
So that's something that more and more career sites should start doing, I think.
Absolutely. How about this this email? I'm hoping your eyesight is a little bit better than mine, Eddie.
This one, what are the potential risks
Yeah.
of being contacted by recruiters from staffing companies for seemingly suitable job positions and then sharing our resume with them? I've experienced situations where after initial discussion, some recruiters lost communication. That happens a lot. And there's a lot of legit reasons, but one of the reasons, which is a little shameful, is that people apply for jobs and no one gets hold of them. That's kind of commonplace and comfortable for many companies. And the last recruiting department that I led, we had a rule that basically that anyone that applied for work at our company would get a response. And most of the responses were coming from the ATS because people were not a fit. They just weren't a fit. So we had an automated message to go out, but everyone got contacted, and that's not commonplace now today. So I think that the solution we talked about earlier is following up, try to find people to talk to in that company and ask, can you tell me if that job is real? Or, are you recruiting external people for it, or whatever the question that you're going to ask? Because you can't just apply and sit back anymore. You need to make yourself noticeable.
And I also want to say this: if you are looking and you are finding that doors are shutting, know that it does take time, and none of this is about you or your value. Please know that when there is rejection, that's all it is. It's not of who you are as a human being. And I really want people to recognize that this is simply job search. And sometimes you do need to sit down with someone and look at your resume together, look at your LinkedIn profile, and make sure you are really showcasing who you are and your value. But recognize that value and the value that's intrinsic within you are not the same thing.
Yeah.
How about, can you see this question here? In the same position being posted by multiple staffing. I think we sort of talked about that, why that would normally happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the definition of a contingency search. There's different types of recruiting firms. There's executive search, which basically means the company pays money up front for the search. So the company's more vested in executive search firms because they've paid ahead of time. But contingency search means you get paid contingent on filling the role. So I could be a company and ask 10 different contingency firms to work on it. It doesn't matter if I ask 1 or 10. I'm only going to pay whatever company fills the role. So it can happen that you see the same job from different recruiting firms posted because it may be the exact same job.
All right. Here's a great question right here. What is LinkedIn doing to prevent or control these things?
You want to take that? LinkedIn in the past year has become more and more like Facebookish, where you're just getting stuff that you don't want. I don't know if they're doing anything about it, but it's a problem. I don't know, Donna, you probably are involved in LinkedIn a lot more than me. What are you seeing?
They do have a fraud department, but at the same time, I think it's one of those things where it's happening at such a high rate that, they're as soon as they stamp one out, more, come up. So it's one of those things where they know about it, they're working on it, but it's hard. This is a hard thing to manage.
Well, I do know that there are AI firms that want to make LinkedIn obsolete, which you think, wow, how can you do that? But then you also think of Facebook, Instagram, like Twitter, like all of these things came into existence and created their own little place in the world. LinkedIn has, I think, served well from a business social media perspective.
Mhm.
But if there's if they get too junk maily, and there's other options, it could be a problem for them.
Yeah. I love this that I just put up there on the screen. Remember, a no means next opportunity. I think that's awesome. That's a great one. All right. With that said, I think shall we do one last call for any questions, and then we'll let you all go. And thank you so much for joining us. Please visit Eddie Stewart's profile. He's got a great newsletter that you can sign up for. I'd love for you to follow me on LinkedIn. And absolutely visit linkedin-makeover.com/gift to retrieve our checklist that we created for you. And we're getting a nice thing here that says, they're an excellent guide. So someone probably already did it and they're enjoying it. So
Good.
absolutely check it out. We'll just do just a few wait for just a few more questions. Eddie, in the meantime, where would you like people to go to find out more about you?
Yeah, you can visit my website to learn about what my company does. That's estalentsolutions.com. And certainly I write a weekly blog post that comes out every Thursday. So if you want to follow me or connect on LinkedIn, you can see that information. Yesterday was a good blog for job seekers. It's should I stay active or put my search on pause during the holidays? So I write a lot of corporate recruiting blogs, but also put the job seeker posts in there occasionally as well.
Well, thank you so much, Eddie, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And keep your chin up. Keep moving forward. Something's going to happen. There's good things ahead of us. And these little scams and frauds, they're gadflies. Just recognize them, notice them, and let's keep moving forward. There's good, legitimate, awesome opportunities out there for us.
Yep.
So thank you so much.